Yeah, unfortunately, it's true that the AEC, and they confirmed this morning that the 21st Australia Party will not be in the September 7th election. We suspect that they would not allow us as a result of inquiries, and I think it's a very sad day for democracy as a result of their actions. There's no reason we shouldn't be on the ballot paper. We're a registered party, but the AEC has chosen not to put us on the ballot paper. Well, I think like a lot of voters, and we've got hundreds of thousands of supporters for 21st Century Australia around the country, but even just supporters that don't necessarily support what we stand for, but supporters of democracy have every reason to be angry and upset that why they've been denied the legitimate democratic right to be able to vote for their party of choice. And I think there's a lot of efforts gone in by our candidates, our Senate candidates right around the country, our lower house candidates, our volunteers, our team. A massive amount of effort's gone into being in this election, and to have the ASC deliberately prevent that from happening, I think it's a very sad day for democracy. Well, I would suggest the AEC is one or two reasons why we're not in this election. One is either gross incompetence, and that many government departments are hopelessly bureaucratic, and the inertia of government, which is part of the problem with this country that we want to fix, is this sheer wastage and inefficiencies and lack of productivity in government departments. But I think we're being too light on the AAC if we say it's just gross incompetence, because they were competent enough to approve 54 other minor parties for this election. Many of those parties, including the Palmer Party, which submitted their application well after we submitted ours. Yet they were quickly approved in the space of 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. The question has to be asked then, if they were competent enough to do that. The only other suggestion is that why they haven't put us in this election is we're suggesting it was done deliberately to delay and prevent 21st Century Australia being on this year's a ballot paper for a September 7th election. Why might they want to do that? Well, I've been warned by many people that the AEC is full of Labor stooges that are sympathetic to Labor, and 21st Century Australia, whose publicly stated aims has been to become a significant third-party force in this country, and Labor voters have been moving across to us in droves, and we were the greater threat to the Labor Party because, one, we're not likely to preference them, and we're likely to preference a coalition ahead of the Labor Party. So if we took 400,000-500,000, possibly as many as 1 million voters at this election, that would be more than enough to ensure that the Labor Party was not re-elected to power. So I think that's part of the reason. Well, I think what the public needs to know is that if we have a democracy, then it certainly doesn't appear that way. Why is it that a party, a legitimate third-party force, is prevented from being on the ballot paper that is anti-democratic in a country that is meant to be, a democratic country? But many people suspect that our political systems are manipulated or even perhaps corrupted. So I don't think it'd be any great surprise to many Australian voters that something like this has deliberately happened to prevent the only real legitimate third-party force coming to power. So I don't think they're surprised. But what can people do? If they go to our website, 21stcenturyaustralia.com.au, we have a letter there that they're welcome, a complaint letter to send in the ASC. If we can swamp with the ASC with thousands and tens of thousands of Australian supporters around this country, and we have supporters even from overseas, then maybe we may be able to force the ASC to do the right thing and add us to the ballot paper. Also, you can send the letter into the Governor-General. But I think you really just want to get out there and spread the word and highlight this injustice that's preventing many Australians from able to vote for a legitimate third party come this election. Or many Australians, even as I said, they don't support our particular policies. Most Australians support a democracy, and they hate being dictated to, and they hate political interference at the government level, the AEC level, to stop a party being on the ballot paper. And a lot of people are very upset and angry about that, and I would encourage people to take a stand. Apathy is what's destroying our country, and we've got both major parties. It's a political duopoly. They've been in power before most of us were born, and unless we do something about it, there will remain Labor and Liberal duopoly until the day that we die. This was one of the small opportunities opportunities that we had to break that duopoly and create a significant third-party force. And as a party, we're still committed to that, even though this injustice has occurred, even though there's been deliberate actions and deliberate political interference to prevent us being on the ballot paper for September 7th election. But we always stated within 9 years or less, we intend being a major third-party force in this country, and we will continue to do that. It's unfortunate, though, that these dirty tricks campaigns and things have been occurring to prevent us being in this election, because there's a lot of voters that now are saying they refuse to vote in this election because the party they wanted to vote for is not going to be in the election, and they're sick of having to be fed up and have no choice other than vote pretty much for Labor or Liberal. The other thing that I would add is just to I guess, educate people a little bit about the process and how they have deliberately created a situation to prevent this. To be a registered political party in the country, all you need is 500 members that are on the electoral roll. We submitted our application on May 2nd this year, 12 days before the May 14th cutoff for the September 14th election that originally was set down by the Gillard government. So we submitted on time. We only formed the party at the beginning of April, so in a space of 30 days, there's an enormous amount of effort went in to launch the party and to recruit 500 members. The party to this day has closer to 1,000 members and growing. So we had more than enough members to be a registered party. What should take a couple of days by the AEC to quickly cross-check those 500 members. You're only allowed to submit 550 members. If you have 700, 800, 1,000 members, you're not allowed to submit the whole lot. They limit that you can only submit 550 members, which is also part of them making it difficult, if not impossible, mathematically, to be quickly accepted, because at 550 members, if they can't find more than 50 of those members on the electoral roll, then your party application will be delayed or stopped. Now, the reality is the AEC database is so inaccurate and flawed, it's at probably 20-25% margin for error. So many people that we know that are on the electoral roll, they can't locate, they can't find. Actually, go to the AEC database right now and try and find yourself on the electoral roll, and many of you will find that even though you are a registered voter, you don't exist on the electoral roll. That's how flawed the database is. So to try and cross-check that your members are registered voters is almost a complete waste of time, because the AEC database is so inaccurate and so flawed. Therefore, after weeks and weeks, or literally months, they come back to us and say they could only find 419 of our original 550 members submitted on the electoral roll. Can you please resubmit some more? So we had to now resubmit 550 new applications, taking weeks to do this, and they go through and take weeks and weeks and weeks, all wasting valuable time, what should be done in a day, to cross-check. This taking now months for them to do. These go-slow tactics employed by the AEC, I suggest deliberately, because they had no intent of registering us in time to be on the ballot paper. They could then only find 483 members, only 17 short of the 500 required. Remember, we're only allowed to give them 550 at any given time. We're not allowed to give them another 200 or 300 so they could quickly ensure that they could find 500 on the electoral roll. 17 short. Now, at this point in time, common sense would dictate, if they wanted us to be in this election, they would simply say, can you please send through 17 more members so we can quickly, in the next day or two, cross-check them off that you have your 500 members and we can register as a political party. No, that certainly didn't happen. At this point in time, we were already fed up of being delayed months and months. The AEC sends us a letter that's quite threatening and saying, we have now rejected your application because we can only find 483 members and not the 500 that's required. If you wish to appeal this decision, you can, and we will not hear it until after the election. I mean, what sort of bureaucratic nonsense is this? Is that not deliberate actions to ensure we're not on the ballot paper? Or the other choice given to us was you can resubmit and start an entire new application all over again. Now it's already gone several months of their delaying tactics, and at that point we have to pay the application fee again and start from scratch again when we've already, time has been wasted by the AEC. That is a deliberate ploy when they could simply say, please send us 17 more members through and register the party so it'd be in the election. To say there's anything other than deliberate actions, just in that instance, amongst all the other instances of delaying tactics, then you've got to be kidding yourself. So once again, we do all that, and we're eventually, weeks later, They eventually get off their butt. They approve the 500. Then they have to do 30 random phone calls, and then that takes even more time. And they eventually could find no other technicalities or no other reasons. I mean, there's a limit to how much you basically bullshit and delay the registration of a party, and they accept that they can't bullshit us anymore. They have to finally accept the registration of our party, because as a democratic country, you can't deny a legitimate party running an election. So we're registered on July 15th, and we celebrated that finally, after 11 long weeks of something that should take no more than 2 or 3 days to quickly check 500 names are on a database and randomly phone 30 people, after 11 long weeks, we were added to the AAC website as a registered party on July 15th this year, which was reported widely across the Australian media. However, perhaps we celebrated too soon, because we're then informed later by different sources, don't trust the AAC. Just because you register doesn't mean you're going to be on the ballot paper. They will still ensure that you're not. And what we found out is that at the time you register, they take 30 days for submissions where people can object, but there's no legitimate objections to a political party other than the name being already taken. And then they require another 33 days after that before you'll be on the ballot paper. So effectively 2 more months before you can run an election. Once again, these are deliberate policies, deliberate systems, deliberate bureaucratic setups to prevent new emerging parties even being in an election. So once again, those tactics are deliberate. I mean, it's not accidental that it's set up this way. So once again, we were going to either election on September 14th. Remember what they needed to do, and to ensure that we were not in a September 14th election, which was the date that Gillard originally set, or they already knew, like most Australians knew, but the AAC definitely knew, if Rudd was returned to power, that he would most probably call an early election. So that was well known. That's not, you don't have to be an Einstein to figure that out. So they needed to ensure that we would not be an election held September 14th or sooner. Is it just coincidental that the very date that they allowed our registration, the date that they could no longer push us back anymore, was Monday, July 15th? Take 60 days, 2 months beyond that date, and what date do you get? You get September 15th. It means that you will not be on the ballot paper for a September 14th or earlier election. Hallelujah. Is that coincidental? I don't think so. To suggest there's anything other than gross incompetence, I think that's being easy on the AAC. It's more than gross incompetence. It's a deliberate tactic, deliberate delays, deliberate action to ensure that 21st century Australia's emerging third-party threat to the two-party duopoly in this country was never ever going to be in this election if they had their way to do something about it. So I think that's appalling. We're demanding an investigation into the bias policies and the interference by the AAC into democracy in this country, and it's time Australian voters took a stand and standed up to the bullshit duopoly, political duopoly in this country, and the processes that are in place by government departments to prevent an illegitimate third-party force coming to power. Yeah, I just want to thank the thousands and thousands of messages that have been coming in from right around this country. I really also feel for all our candidates in the Senate and lower house. I mean, they put an enormous amount of effort in to wanting to represent voters and taxpayers in this country. So I really do feel for them and the team and our supporters, because it's a major letdown. I'm certainly very disappointed about it. All we're asking for is democracy, to be on the ballot paper. We're not asking for anything more than that. And I think in a country, most voters, a large percentage of voters would think that that's more than fair, and would be asking the same question, why aren't we? And the AAC can spin it all they like, but we have enough evidence to suggest that it was deliberate and deliberate tactics employed against us to prevent us being on the ballot paper, and that's just grossly unfair, and Australians should take a stand for that. And certainly, we didn't think this would ever happen in our country, and it's quite disturbing to think that it has.